I realized earlier that it's been several weeks since I added designs to my Etsy store. And I love adding designs. I love designing shirts. So what happened? Marketing and everything else. How do you juggle all that? Let's talk about it today on Adventures in Pod. Hi, and welcome to Adventures in Pod. I'm your host, Ryan McGinnis. I'm the owner of S&D Designs, a self-published author on Amazon, and the owner of 217 Press, which is for now an Etsy store powered by print on demand. Now, I started Adventures in Pod to sort of document my journey into the world of print on demand and Etsy and all of that retail, which I've never really done before. I've been a web designer, I've been an author, I've been a lot of things, but I've never had an Etsy store and I've never run a retail online shop. So this podcast is to sort of share my experiences, maybe talk to you guys, get advice from you, give advice from the lessons I've learned, but I am in no way an expert. This is just me sharing my world with you guys. So that being said, this week I wanted to talk a little bit about the fact, I'm just going to be honest, I've been a bit overwhelmed lately. It has just been a lot. I mean, I think that's the society we live in. That's the world we live in nowadays. Every time you glance at the news, I mean, it's like you'll be doing your work and your stuff and everything, and you glance at the news and there's a super dumpster fire, and it all just gets to be a lot. And on top of that, I am just, very overwhelmed, not just with getting this brand off the ground, getting 217 Press off the ground, getting eyes on the products on Etsy, all those aspects of business. But I mean, I also, and the podcast that we're doing right now, the thing is, I run a web design company, and which also does online marketing. I write books. I have 2 podcasts, and I run 217 Press and all the social media marketing that goes along with all of that. And I'm not lying when I say, it can be a lot. It can be a whole lot, and so sometimes, sometimes I get a bit overwhelmed, and it really messed with me the other day because, when I first started 217 Press, I was doing designs all the time and throwing them up and throwing them online, and so, maybe I'm a bit discouraged, but I mean, it's hard. We've talked about it before that Etsy's oversaturated. There's a lot of designers, there's a lot of creators on there, and we're all just trying to do our thing. And so, maybe I was a little discouraged, maybe I'm a little downtrodden, maybe, I get overwhelmed, but it's a lot. Running your own business is a lot. Writing books and putting them out yourself is a lot. Doing all this, like having several companies and an author business, that's a hell of a lot. I mean, it's just a lot. And so sometimes I get overwhelmed. Sometimes I get, stressed and but until I make enough money to hire somebody to delegate out some of this work, then it's just me, and I've got to do the best that I can and move forward. And, so it's a lot to manage. And if any of you guys out there have any advice on how you manage it, please leave it in the comments, and let me know, because I feel like I always talk about this. I talk about this in my author business. I talk about it with the web design business. I talk about it with this, that there's just, there's a lot to juggle and a lot of things to do. And, and it's a lot of existential weight on your shoulders. Now, don't take that as me complaining, though. Don't take that as me being woe is me. I'm just stating the obvious. I mean, there's no way that I could not do this. You know what I'm saying? There's no way that I could not have an Etsy store. There's no way that I could not, do all the stuff that I do. But I also am realistic and acknowledge that, it can be a bit rough at times. So how do I manage it? How do I get through all that? When things are rough, I have to sit down and think about it, and I've come up with some steps. I didn't intend on doing steps when I was writing this episode, when I was coming up with what I was going to say. I didn't intend on there being steps, but I started doing steps, and so I'm like, you know what? Screw it. We're going to do some steps, and we're going to lay those out of what I do, and maybe it'll help you. So once again, this is what I try to do. If it doesn't work for you, cool. If you've got a different way of doing it, please tell me, because I would love to hear it. So number one, try to streamline stuff as much as possible and cut out unnecessary stuff. If you don't think something's working, don't do it. If it doesn't feel authentic, don't do it. Some people can't talk on camera. Don't. There's no rule saying you have to. I'm doing it because I like talking on camera. It doesn't bother me because of my background. I've been in bands. I've been in a lot of stuff. And so, it doesn't bother me. But if you're not comfortable with it, if you can't do it, then, by all means, don't do it, but also in the streamlining step, I would say, and a lot of you probably already do this, but I use a scheduler for social media. I'll put out posts throughout the week and every day and whatever, but I record all those at the same time, and I use a scheduling app. There's a plenty of them out there, from the really good to the really bad to the really expensive to the really cheap and everything in between. So pick a scheduler and schedule your social media. And also I would suggest reusing content across your social media sites. I do. Videos that I make, short form videos that you'll see here on YouTube, will also snippets from them will appear on TikTok. They'll appear on Reels on Instagram and Facebook. So reuse content. It helps a lot. There's no way I could do completely different content for all the social media, because oh god, it would just be too much. But number two, I do tend to use Canva. Now I am completely capable of doing my own graphic design. I have programs that I use. I use Affinity Designer, in case any of you are interested, because I'm very much not an Adobe person. I'm not a Photoshop person anymore. I use Affinity Designer. I think it's a great program. I use some other stuff, but the thing is, when I'm in a hurry, and most of the time when I'm just doing simple stuff, I just do Canva, because honestly, it's got all the tools and you can do stuff a lot quicker on there. So I tend to use it because it speeds it up. That's the name of the game. When you're by yourself, speeding things up is the name of the game. And so anything that helps speed up your workflow, I highly suggest using it. It takes a lot of pressure off me when I don't have to worry about it. Now, I will, as a side note though, while we're talking about saving time and using technology, I don't want to get too into this. Maybe we'll save this for a future episode, but I do not use AI to create shirts, to do designs. I don't. I love design. I do design. I love designing things. And while I will use Canva to kind of cut some corners, I will not use AI. I do believe in AI in certain things, but it's like I've said recently in another space. Let AI do the boring stuff. Let it do some research. Let it do some heavy lifting, with some organizational stuff, but keep it out of the creative. The creative's where I want to play. So let it do the boring stuff. Let AI do the dishes while I'm playing in the yard. I don't want AI to be able to play in the yard while I'm doing the dish, to give me more time to do the dishes, because that makes no sense. No matter what our corporate overlords think, But that's just my 2 cents on that. And number four, be organized and stick to a schedule. I schedule everything out, and as much as possible, I stick to the schedule, while also understanding that everything's a work in progress and the schedule may not always be followed. Sometimes you have to push stuff off. I'm doing all this filming on a Friday, and I meant to do it on a Thursday, but the schedule got too busy. Everything fell behind, and so here we are on a Friday afternoon. But most of all, just remember, and this is the most important step of any of it, is to have grace with yourself, have patience with yourself, and realize that everything is a work in progress. Don't strive for perfection. It's better to do something and have it out there than have something stuck in research and development where nobody can see it, because you might not be selling many shirts or many books or whatever you sell, but if you didn't have them out, you'd be selling zero. So, that's really it. I mean, that's my steps. That's what I've got for you today. It's just, streamline, use tools to shortcut things and buy yourself more time, be organized and stick to your schedule. And most of all, have grace with yourself and remember everything is a work in progress. So that's the episode for today. If you found it useful, if you found it fun, then, give me a like, give me a subscribe, maybe give me, click the notification bell so you'll be notified, because even though you subscribe to the channel, you don't always get told when new episodes are coming out. So please hit the notification bell so you'll be informed when we have a new episode out, which, right now the schedule is we try to have them out every Monday. Sometimes it's Tuesday, but most of the time it's Monday. So, you guys keep up with me. And if you've got some comments, please be in the comments. Leave me a comment. Tell me how you handle it all and how you juggle your business and how you manage all your hats in your Etsy business. I'd love to hear it. But for now, you guys have a great week and we'll talk soon.